And if I had one message to say to the average Yid, go to your Rebbe, go to your Rabbanim, tell them to stop fighting Likbasher's Chabad, whatever, Chassidim, this, that. Stop with all the other bickering that you guys are busy with. Start to work be'achdus, because once the Sanhedrin is established, we also cancel the Sibas Hagalos, which is Sinas Chinam, because the achdus in the Sanhedrin will represent the achdus in all of Am Yisrael, creates Avas Chinam, and then we can move forward into the Geula like that. Be'ezrat Hashem.
Welcome to the channel Navigating Chabad. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share, because that helps the algorithm bring it to more people, which changes lives and brings Moshiach. And 2 disclaimers. First disclaimer that this channel is catered to a Chabad crowd, or at least religiously Jewish. And also disclaimer, this channel is not meant to bash anyone or any organization. We're here to change the world for the better, to improve Chabad, which improves the world, and yeah. So sit back, relax, enjoy, soak in all the goodness. Yeah, now.
So today we have with us Rabbi Yosef Edery. I'm very excited. So Reb Yosef, I hear that you are busy preparing for Moshiach by making a Sanhadrin. Tell us about that.
Okay, so let's talk to the Chabadnik and say that, of course, every Chabadnik's dream is to understand and to unpack the secret of Kabbalah's Pnei Mashiach that the Rebbe left us, the Shlichus, the last Shlichus. And we know that the Rebbe goes into, in the Sichas, the Rebbe goes into the Rambam, B'chol der v'der nolad echad mizarei Yehuda, and so on. And of course, that part of the Rambam is 11 prokim ahead of the Perek Aleph. But if we go into Perek Aleph, we see that the Rambam says, Shalosh mitzvahs nitztavu Yisrael b'shas knisasam la'aretz. This means that there's 3 mitzvahs that the Yidden have to do b'shas knisasam la'aretz. Now, of course, if you're in Brooklyn, or if you're in the United States, or if you're in Golos, you're not in the gather of b'shas knisasam la'aretz. Of course, the basic pirush is that it's talking about Yeshua ben Nun when he's going into Eretz Yisrael. So according to that, Yesh Lemar, every Yid, ever since then, is in the gather of b'shas knisasam la'aretz. But specifically today in our generation, where you have millions of Yidden Baruch Hashem in Eretz Yisrael, it's a whole different level. Of course, Minui Melech, Mechias HaMalek, and Binyan Beis HaBchira, which are mitzvahs that need to be done in Eretz Yisrael. We don't have a mitzvah to be Maman Melech Kuzari or Melech in Chutz La'aretz. Same thing is for Mechias HaMalek, is to clean the land as in preparation for building the Beis HaMikdash. Har HaBayis, you can't have Amalek or the halacha, the Hagdara of Amalek and halacha, which is someone that wants to kill a Yid for no reason, hanging around in Eretz Yisrael before you build the Beis HaMikdash. So, based on that, and then we move on to the next parak, the same parak, the halacha base. The Rambam explains that the order is very important. You have to have first a melech, then you have Mechias HaMalek, and it can't happen in the other way around. You have to have first Mechias HaMalek, and then you have to have Binyan Beis HaBchira. And in the third parak, the Rambam says that Ein min manin melech al pi beis din shel shivim v'al pi novi. And then he gives a few examples, like Yeshua, that his beis din, that Moshe Rabbeinu and his beis din, the Shivim Zkenim Har Sinai, they appointed him, and David HaMelech and Shaul and so on. So in every case, we see that the Sanhedrin was there. And I want to talk about the Sanhedrin for a minute. They were, at the end of the day, who were the Sanhedrin? They were the police of Paroi that didn't agree with Paroi's tyrannical decrees on the Yidden, and they created a buffer zone between themselves and Paroi. And then when Moshe, you see this with Lama Nigora, they're trying to fight for Am Yisrael even against Moshe Rabbeinu. So when Moshe Rabbeinu is doing political things that are not exactly understandable by Am Yisrael, they say, "Why? Look, what you did just made it worse for Am Yisrael," and so on. And the same thing is when Paro is acting crazy. We know the Medrash says that they never hit the Yidden, but they were ready to get beaten all the time for not standing at the quotas and so on. And then Moshe Rabbeinu sees them and says, "Okay, I'm going to take these people. These are the people that were ready to self-sacrifice for Am Yisrael. They're going to be the Shivim Zkenim. Of course, they joined Moshe Rabbeinu on Har Sinai in Kabbalah Satira. They're there for the building of the Mishkan. Later, years later, the Sanhedrin are there or the Shivim Zkenim, the great, the Beis Din HaGadol is there to build the base of Bayis Rishon. Bayis Sheni, even in Mordechai, is part of the Sanhedrin in Bayis Sheni in the story of Purim. So we see that as long as the Sanhedrin was around and they had the Semicha and they carried the tradition Ish Mipi Ish, they were able to do great things. Just like you have 10 Yidden in a room, you could open up a Sefer Torah, you could do Kriyas Torah, Keser, Makdishach, Kaddish. So when you have Shivim, Zkenim, then you can be Mamane HaMelech and you can do great things. I also want to point out that not all, according to the Rambam, not all of the Shivim have to be Baki and Kol HaTorah Kula. You have to have one or two that are Baki and Kol HaTorah Kula. The rest of them can be Mitzdarif if they're Baki and Miktas Halachis. So just like a minyan is a powerful element, so too 70 Yidden. So you go into a yeshiva and you have Miktas Bikim, and then you have a few heads that have Smicha, then they can be Soymech everybody else in the room, and then they can manifest these things. So it's a very strong power, and with great power comes great responsibility, but it's something that is necessary for two reasons. One, the Geula process cannot move forward without the Sanhedrin. And even according to the Dea, that Melech ben David doesn't need Smicha from a Sanhedrin, but the day after he's Melech, he needs a Sanhedrin. They're his justice. They're his court. They're his Sheftim v'Sheitrim. Sheftayich v'Yatzayich. They're the ones who say what's kosher or what's tamei, especially when we're talking about halachas that Am Yisrael doesn't have experience with, like building the Beis Hamikdash. So that's the Sanhedrin in a nutshell.
Wow, that was a pretty good summary. I guess let's take a step back. When did this start, and where did it start from?
So in my life, I've seen a lot of, in my own personal life, I've seen examples of Tzedek and Yosher. I had a few times when I wanted to resolve an issue and I wasn't able to, or I saw older people resolving an issue and they weren't resolving it on the nicest way. And I realized that today really, because so there's a couple things. Number one, the Batei Din in Golus are scared of the Malchiyos that they exist under. So a Beis Din might not feel comfortable saying anything if they're worried that the local courts are going to have a problem with that. So there's no synchronization. When the Jews were in Morocco, for example, the king respected the Bnei HaTorah and the Chachamim, and he gave them their own police force. There was extremely good communications between the king of Morocco and the Jewish people, especially those who are religious and frum. And I just want to give an example. There was the Ben Ish Chai brings us down the story. There was an Arab guy who he came home. He was fuming. He was very mad. He told his wife, "If by the time I finish eating this cake, you don't finish making me a coffee, you're divorced." Now in Islam, it's very, very complicated to get divorced. There's a lot of very, very complicated laws, and it's not worth it, basically. So he finished eating his cake, and his wife couldn't heat the water on time. It wasn't possible. And then officially they're divorced. But then he calmed down, and he kind of regretted it. So he went to his imam, and he tried to ask his imam if he can help him out of this conundrum. And his imam said, "I can't help you. You said it, that's what it is." But the imam said, I think you should go to the Jewish rabbi. Maybe the Jewish rabbi can help you. So he went to the Jewish rabbi, and the Jewish rabbi told him, "Hey, look, if you have some crumbs under the table of the cake, then it means that you didn't eat the cake. So go home, check under the table in the kitchen or wherever you were eating, see if there's some crumbs. It's usually that you didn't finish the whole cake. So grab a crumb, put it on the table, let your wife make you a coffee, and then eat the last crumb." So that's an example where not only the Sanhedrin is helping a Yid, but they're helping anybody. Sanhedrin have to be Baki in 70 languages. It's not just for Am Yisrael. They have to be baki in all the kinds of worship, all the kinds of traditions in the world, so that they give everyone the right, according to halacha, according to Torah, but they give everyone the right justice. So regarding your question, I believe that the Beis Din in Galus doesn't have enough power because it's not synchronized properly with the local governments. And in Eretz Yisrael, the Rabbanut is busy with, marrying people off, unfortunately burying people, doing all the regular things. But as far as resolution and resolving issues, I felt that there's not enough there. It says, V'hasar mimenu yagen v'anacha. And when we say, Ashiva sheftenu k'varishena, v'yatenu k'vatchila, v'hasar mimenu yagen v'anacha. And that's the job of a Beis Din, that if you have a problem, you go there, you sit in front of the Rav, and the Rav helps you resolve any conundrums you have in your life, ben adam l'makim, ben adam l'chaveri. I felt that briefly with Rabbi Shvei, Zechrona Livracha, in Crown Heights, but as a general rule, I never felt that as a steady thing that can actually resolve issues on a larger scale. And I felt that that's a very important issue. On top of that, Sanhedrin is the only way that I see, according to the halacha, that we could move forward in the Geula process. So number one, tzedek in general, and number two, the Geula process. And of course, if we look at the Yom Beis the Chag HaShavuos, which the Rebbe brings down in Eis Vav, it's the whole Indian of Torah Chadasha Miti Teitze, where the Rebbe basically says that the ones who are going to accept Moshiach is going to be the Sanhedrin in Yerushalayim. He's going to have to come in front of them. He's going to have to use his genius that's greater than Shlomo HaMelech and his nevuah, which is close to Moshe Rabbeinu. He's going to have to use the Shloshes Midas Shatar and Nidreshes Bahem. He's going to have to be able to bring the Chiddush, of how the Levyasan is a kosher shchita. Okay, because we don't have any halachas in place right now to say that that's a kosher shchita. And Mashiach is going to be able to not only explain how that's kosher, he's going to be able to explain that it was always kosher ever since Moshe Rabbeinu, but we missed it. But the point is that the only ones who can accept what Mashiach is saying and accept his Torah Chadasha, and in that actually validate that he is the Melech HaMashiach, the only ones who can do that is the Sanhedrin, the Beis Din HaGadol B'Yerushalayim. So it's mashma from the Rebbe Sicha that the Beis Din HaGadol B'Yerushalayim is already functioning when the Melech HaMashiach shows up. So that's number one. And also the Rebbe points out that the Sanhedrin HaGadol is the Ikar Inyan Torah Shebal Peh. So without the Sanhedrin HaGadol, we really don't have someone who is updating the Torah Shebal Peh. It's like I gave you the example, like someone who has a phone and he didn't update it in a couple hundred years. The Semicha only ended, the actual Semicha tradition only ended in the Byzantine Empire not so long ago. And the Hefsek is enough to fulfill the Nevuah of Ve'ashiva. The Rambam also has a recipe on how to restart the Sanhedrin, which is to get Chachmei Yisrael, Reb Chachmei Yisrael in that generation in Eretz Yisrael together and to restart it. This restart was already done 20 years ago. Many Chachamim and rabbis got together in Tveria, the place where also, according to the Gemara, the Sanhedrin will restart from. The last place the Sanhedrin was fully functioning was in Tveria, and 20 years ago they did it again, and they restarted the Semicha process. Rabbi Tzvi Idan, one of the judges in the Sanhedrin initiative, it's just the initiative for now, but he was part of that Semicha, and he gave Semicha to our judges and our advisors. So there is a link, and we're heavily involved in making sure that everything is done according to halacha.
That's great. It's just unfortunate that I guess it's not that popular. Like, I've never heard of this, and even friends who I would be sure that they would have heard of this, they also didn't hear of it. So, like, how come it's not around? It's just not. How come it's not that public? And Yeah, I'll just start from there.
Well, I think that Chabad is dealing with Chabad and the Kippas Ruga, the Dati Leumi. They have the same kind of thing. You go up to a hill and then you just park there instead of keep on going. In other words, every Chabadnik, you talk to him about Mashiach, and up to the Hisgalus of the Rebbe and up to Tchias HaMesim, that's as far as he can go. But when the Rebbe says Tut Alt was can't, I don't, and also the fact that we're waiting for the Hisgalus of the Rebbe is because we miss the Rebbe a lot. It's not because the Rebbe said in the Sichas that we should be waiting around for him. What the Rebbe did tell us is Tut Alt was can't and Alt was Getan is Lehevel Vilarik. So the Rebbe also gave license to every single Chassid zu sich zusammenreden und herauskommen mit Achlotes Teves, Almanas Lakaimen Befeil, wie zu ausführen des Schlichus Miuchedes. So one guy is going to come up with a sticker, another guy with a flag, another guy with a new shir in Yanagul Mashiach, another sefer. The Rebbe really doesn't, it's not an exclusive thing. Everyone has to do their part in their place. Of course, there's a difference between Hafasa Satera Vayadus, Hafasa Samayanes Chutza, and Kabbalah's Pnei Mashiach. And if you think that your Yiddishkeit, your Hafatza of Yiddishkeit and your Hafatza of Chassidus is Kabbalah's Pnei Mashiach, and you never invested in Kabbalah's Pnei Mashiach on its own, you'll probably never need to move forward in the Kabbalah's Pnei Mashiach field. Why is this not popular? I don't know. I mean, I believe that, Mikoitza Ruach Me'avoda Kasha, there's a mitzvah Sanashim Milumada that the Alter Rebbe warns us about. People get into their routine. Whether even if it's a Rosh Hashiva, they get a paycheck or whatever. Everybody's busy, and I'm not done anyone l'kaf chayva. But if you look at the halacha, that's what it is. Now, regarding the feedback that we got here in Eretz Yisrael over the past few years, we already had 7 conferences in different places in Haifa, in Har Zion, in Yerushalayim, 5 minutes away from the Kaisel. We had a conference in Sfas right before, as the war was beginning. So at Ben Yoyada, which is he was the head of the Sanhedrin of David the Melech. He's buried here in Sfas. So there's a lot of work in Eretz Yisrael. The Meraglim and Kairach never made it in because the Ratzon Elyon was too much for them. They were good al pi teva. Their own teva was hardwired in a certain way. But the second the Ratzon Elyon was go into Eretz Yisrael, go toil the land and conquer it. It's a whole different avodah. And as we see in Yetzias Mitzrayim, it's not just crossing a border from Mitzrayim to Eretz Yisrael. It's a whole membeis masois. It's a detox of the memtes sharei tuma. There's a whole process going on here, and that's also, of course, every person in his golus prati, and then of course also in the way he participates in the golus kloli. So I don't blame anyone for not doing enough pirsum, and of course the fact that we're talking hopefully will make a difference in that. And I've been on different debates. I've been on different things, and of course my YouTube channel's been running all the time speaking about this topic. There's a lot of Bnei Noach actually that the Rebbe tells us that the world is ready, and when I say the world is ready, I mean the Bnei Noach that I meet, they totally get that. They actually tell me, hey Yossi, there's millions of Jews in Eretz Yisrael. Why don't you guys get your act together and take full ownership and fully manifest the Geula? And I think that if I really have to think deeply, it's because Am Yisrael is in that trauma, not only the Chabad because of the Rebbe and Gimel Tammuz, but Am Yisrael in general. It's 2,000 years. Every time we pick up our head, we get knocked down. So we're very scared of Hatzlacha. We're very scared of Geula. This is what I think. And we need to, like they say, it's hard. It's easy to take the Yid out of Golos, but it's hard to take the Golos out of the Yid. So we really need to do a cheshbon and nefesh, I believe. Of course, you have a lot of Rabbanim that are very scared of touching any. They don't want to be the first or even the second or the fifth. They want to be the 69th in the Sanhadrin. They want to be the last one to join. They want to be the head of the Sanhadrin, but they don't want to be part of the work of putting it together, which is fine. The truth is that there's millions of Yidden, as I said, hundreds of thousands of Frum Yidden in Eretz Yisrael. To get together 70 Anshe Chai El Yireh Elikim, Anshe Emes Beta is just a matter of time. And we do have already the core from the last Sanhadrin initiative, Sanhadrin Nascent Sanhadrin it was called, with Rabbi Steinsaltz Zichrono Livracha. So we do have the halachic bekius to a certain level to deal with the halachic issues. And Be'ezus Hashem, it will become more popular. What are Chabadnikim doing? Levi, I'll ask you the question. What do you see Chabadnikim doing in the realm of Kabbalah's Pnei Mashiach that you think is driving in a realistic way al pi halacha? What do you see?
I was about to say something until you said the words al pi halacha, so that's a whole different game changer. No, not that they're doing things not al pi halacha, but that's the thing why I think why Kabbalah's Pnei Mashiach, one of the reasons I believe why people are not doing things is because it wasn't, I may say, it wasn't as specific as the other mivtzaim that the Rebbe said. I believe this is the most, if I could say, vague mivtza the Rebbe has ever gave us. And maybe, obviously on purpose. So that gives room for like so much interpretation and opposites of what to do for it. And that is a big practical reason why there's so much confusion about it, because it's very vague. Like you said, people are starting with flags. And if you think about it, like if Mashiach is very real, then a flag could be appropriate. If Mashiach is very real, then you're making signs. You are, because and it's not a joke. It's not a cute thing. It's like, this is like, imagine a real king coming to you. That's Kabbalah. You're accepting him. And obviously, there's the aspect of learning, and that Baruch Hashem, that most of Chabad is into. I'll just say it like that, because we also have to get consciously ready, our brains ready, and hearts ready. So there's the inner work to do, and the Rebbe did say that. The Rebbe did say learning Yan and Gul Mashiach. Okay, and I guess that's why all Chabadniks are doing it, but pretty much only what the Rebbe said, very specifically what to do. Pretty much we're all good at. Otherwise, the Rebbe didn't clearly say it. Not only the very little people do it, but there's also a lot of backlash to it, which leads me to what I was very really wanted to ask you, excited to ask you, was I'm sure you got backlash for this. So I would like to know how was that, and mainly what was your response to negative feedback?
So it's actually pretty interesting, the kind of backlash I got, because the backlash I got almost never was lemaise. In other words, it was kind of like, you can't be doing that. Why would you want to do that? And then I would say, why not? And shouldn't we? And then it would be, of course we should, but why me? Why you? And then I would say, because the Rebbe said so. I'm a Chabad Chassid. The Rebbe told us to be. The Rebbe said everything I did was Lahevel Vilarik. So of course, and the Rebbe said, Ich gib das Iber Yedern von euch. So of course we have to do something. And it's almost like a kid running away from a charayus, like a kid that dropped a glass cup and then he's just running away. He doesn't want to deal with the consequences. That's kind of the I never really got a head-on hitnagdut. Even those who vaguely tell me that the Rebbe was against it, they can't really point to anything. And I actually studied what the Rebbe says about the Sanhedrin, and there's a lot of very positive things. And you see very clearly that the Rebbe was 100%. If you learn Dvar Malchus in the next year, whoever's watching this, you'll notice that the Sanhedrin is extremely vital in the Geula process. You can't pull off Minui Melech. Even the Psak Din, okay, the Psak Din that we have in 770 on the wall, is basically a draft, quick, a quick attempt at a Sanhedrin for the Kabbalah Samalchus of the Rebbe during that time. And those Rabbanim, eventually they added signatures from all over the world, but initially those Rabbanim were from Eretz Yisrael. So, and Nachshon was involved in that and so on. So I actually spoke to Nachshon about this, and again, there's this update that we're talking about here. Now I've been, this is like Das is the union of bringing the Chachma and the Bina into action. When you're standing in front of the pizza shop and you're fiddling with your change to buy the pizza, how much is it? And then you 25 shekel, 50 shekel, that's das. That's your brain working in an actionable way. So when we're talking about bringing everything down to das, when you're Gedela Talmud Shemevili de Maise, yeah, Haleman al Manas Lasois, Zeichen Lilmadu Lalamed Lishmar Malasis Ulukayim. So when you're learning just in order to learn, because the Rebbe said to learn, it's one thing. When you're actually trying to figure it out, Teich Kedei, while you're learning, and you're actually trying to figure out how to actually do this, it's a totally different limud. When a Bachar is learning, and of course there's like the 3 years that is Arla, like the Rebbe Rashab, we bring it in Likutei Deburim, that after 3 years of Temchet Mimim, the Rebbe Rashab said that because you guys have Gaiva in your learning mixed in, and it's not Punkt L'Shem Shemayim, so it's Arla, and you can only learn it, and in the 4th year, you can only eat it in Yerushalayim, and only after that can you eat it in Paris. So I think that there's a level of that. I'm not sure exactly how to explain it, but the fact is, you're right. On one hand, Kabbalas B'nai Mashiach is vague, and there's a reason for that. And I think the reason for that is because Kabbalas B'nai Mashiach is a secret. And I'll explain you what I mean. If you actually learn Chassidus, whether you're learning all the way from the Alter Rebbe all the way down, you'll realize that they're discussing a lot of things. Even the Frierdiker Rebbe in Likutei Deburim, he's telling you about how he was in jail. There's a mimer in Mamor and Melukat, not Mamor Melukat, Melukatim, the blue Mamor Melukatim of the Frierdiker Rebbe, and it's Vavram Zaken Baba Yamim, and the Frierdiker Rebbe compares Anshes Doim to Avram Avinu, and then he says that a schlechter mensch, even when he does something good, it's done with a schlecht, and so on and so on. And the Frierdiker Rebbe is basically describing his experience. If you read Likutei Deburim and you read the Ma'amorim, it sounds like he's describing his experience in the KGB, okay, in the KGB in Russia. So, the Anshes Dayan, they're schlecht, and even when they do Achnasas Archim, they take it out of proportion, and they totally ruin Avram Avinu's good name of doing Achnasas Archim by totally destroying the concept itself, by killing people during the act. So the Frierdiker Rebbe, and then you hear the Frierdiker Rebbe and Likutei Deburim is explaining you how he fell down the stairs and so on, in the 7 floors underground of the KGB's ladders and bunkers. So what I'm trying to say is, when the Rebbe tells us Kabbalas B'nai Mashiach, it's kind of a cryptic message, but for those who put in a little bit of effort, you're going to see exactly what that message is. And it's a message that's illegal in Golus. It means kfira in everything, in every real malchus that exists other than the malchus of Hashem and the malchus of the melech and the mitzvah that you want to do. This is censored information on the highest level. The only reason it gets a pass is because it's freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and the Umas Olam don't cop exactly what it is. But if we're talking about bringing the malchus of Hashem into this world in a real way, it's merida b'malchus and everything else. So the reason it's cryptic is because it's supposed to be cryptic unless you actually want to do it, and you have to be a Talmud Chacham in order to unpack this and decipher it. So the question is, are we ready to jump out of the egg? Are we ready to hatch? Are we ready to finish the Ubar, the 9 months, and go into the new reality, into the reality of Yemais HaMashiach? There's grasshoppers, just for an example. Grasshoppers, there's a period in their life when they're all colorful, and they have all the colors of the rainbow on them, and they look very, very beautiful. And then there's a period when they start to feel like they have the power to do it. They turn gray, they turn into like a tank, like double the size, kind of. Their scales become very, very thick and strong. And then they swarm like Makas Arbe. This happens in Africa every once in a while. They just cover a couple of miles and they just take over town. And they just go on a conquest, So the question is Am Yisrael, I'm not talking about, of course, the Rebbe says that it's Milchama Shel Shalom, and that this Geula is going to be Berachamim, and that everyone's going to be in a matzav of Menucha V'Shalva, and Milchemes Hashem is not about killing people. It is about killing Amalek and V'yin Kaim Nikmas Dam Avad V'Shafuch, definitely, because that's the real healing of the trauma. You have to see, the victim has to see revenge from the person who did him the trauma. Otherwise, he's not going to properly heal. So Am Yisrael needs to see that revenge. We cannot have mosques and churches all over Eretz Yisrael and still think that we're in Geula. Even if the New Testament, Lamashal, it's like soaked in Jewish blood. Nobody even cares what it says inside at this point, because it's soaked in Jewish blood and it traumatizes Am Yisrael. So even if today the Christians, we're all your friends, and the Muslims there might be some Muslim, but there has to be a certain, at least in Eretz Yisrael, there shouldn't be any churches and any mosques, because it's just a disgrace to Hashem himself, I believe. In any case, there needs to be an ikama, there needs to be a yerida into das. We need to understand that the reason the Meraglim and the reason Korach wasn't ready to go into Eretz Yisrael was because an extremely strong change of nature was necessary. Only Yeshua ben Nun and Kaleb ben Yefuna and a few selective Yidden were able to also get out of the Memtes Shari Tuma, also elevate themselves to the Shara Nun and Chachma, also, go through all that and adopt themselves quickly enough into the Geula. Most of the Dara Midbar died in the Dara Midbar. They never made it out. It was too much for them. They would voluntarily bury themselves and wait to die because it was too much for them. They were able to get out of Galus, but they weren't able to join the Geula. So I think every Yid today, especially the older generation, we have the Dara Midbar, right? They have to ask themselves, am I built of steel? Am I built of the stuff that the Rebbe was talking about? Am I part of the Geula process, or am I just eating ice cream and pizza on Kingston Avenue and somehow connecting that to my Dvar Malchus and my Skashros to the Rebbe and have a nice day? Are we, this is the whole question of a chassid. Every day has to question himself, whatever I'm doing, am I actually serving Hashem, or am I just serving my own self-interests,
Wow. Chaim. So again, my question to you earlier was, sorry to bring it up, negativity, but because I'm sure there will be also backlash from this video probably, and I want to avoid that as much as possible. What are specific things that people said that's what you're doing is wrong? You mentioned that they couldn't pinpoint at it, but like nothing, like.
Listen, honestly, I don't think the Yetzer Hara and the Samach Mem even came up with a political argument against the Sanhedrin yet. It's too fresh. It's not like when a Chabadnik says something about the Rebbe is alive, so that there's a whole bunch of like premeditated talking points and NPC remarks that come out when someone mentions that. Because the Sanhedrin is so fresh, and the Kach in it is so fresh, and the Shtorim about it in Eretz Yisrael is so fresh, there's not really an organized opposition. I'll be honest with you. It's not like I never really ran into proper opposition. There are those who just are worried. Let me give you one example. In the halachic sphere, there is a little bit of a discussion, and we're going to get into that a little bit. The Rambam gives clearly a recipe of how to reestablish the Sanhedrin. The last three words of the Rambam is V'hadavar tzarich hechra. And the Radbaz brings down with a few other chevra that because the Rambam says V'hadavar tzarich hechra at the end, it means that he's inconclusive in his halacha, and therefore V'hadavar tzarich hechra is similar to Teku, Tishbi Taretz Kushas V'abayis, and because it's just more convenient, we're just going to wait for Eliyahu Navi to reinstate the Semicha, to reestablish the Sanhadrin, and then we'll move on from there. In other words, these chevre, and I might add Tifin Golus, decided that they're going to take three words, turn the entire Rambam on himself, because they didn't have the guts to upschlug the Rambam, but they're going to take the last three words, take the Rambam out of context, in my opinion, and just walk away and turn it into something nisi that's part of the Geula. The whole element of that, the base of English, the base of English is going to fall from Shemayim, that Moshiach is just going to land on clouds. These are unnatural things. And to tie the reestablishment of Sanhedrin to a nace like Eliyahu and Navi coming back is against halacha. We have the story in the Gemara where the Tanaim were arguing, and there was the Rabbim and the Yachid, and the Yachid said, if the halacha is like me, then etz charuv yochiach, and the tree was uprooted and started flying, and then amat hamayim, the water started running the other way, and then kotlei bet hamidrash, the walls of the Beis Hamidrash, which are the witnesses of they're the ones who watched the Talmidei Chachamim, they started to crumble, and then at the last second, the Chachamim said, hey, why are you guys getting involved? You guys are just the walls. So the walls ever since then stayed halfway in. And at the end of the day, all the Tararam, the halacha was Yachid Rab Malacha Karabim. Tara Leba Shemayim. Tara is down here. If someone owes somebody money, he can't say, Eliyahu Navi is going to pay you later. I have a lot of skuyot in Tara is down here. That's the whole difference between din, emes, and shalom. Din is Torah, emes is avodah samikdash or tefillah, and shalom is gemilas chasadim. You can't take in din. Din is dry, it's cut dry. That's why I said halacha. You can't mess around with halacha. And they're atbaz, and these guys, and the same thing as Rashi. Rashi is the one who brings down that the Beis Hamikdash will fall down from Shemayim. Of course, the Rebbe is miyashiv that whole inyan and says, regardless of whether Beis Hamikdash is coming down from Shemayim, Am Yisrael have to physically be ready to build the whole thing. They have to actually physically build the Sha'arim at least. And if it's supposed to come down from Shemayim, then as we're building it and we're totally committed to build the whole thing, Hashem's going to grace us and finish the job for us. But there has to be 100% commitment in the physical world from us. So when it says, Soim Tasim Alecha Melech, it's a mitzvah saseh d'oraisa,
Right,
just
but
like
hold
keeping
on.
kosher.
There are things that Mashiach has to start, though. We don't start it. So maybe, you're saying that Sanhedrin has to for sure have to be before Mashiach, and you proved that. But doesn't the Beis Hamikdash and the Kibbutz Galias have to be through Mashiach?
So like this. For 10 parakim, the Rambam explains what a melech is. Okay? He says it has to be a melech, velo malka. It has to be mikar v'chechem, so he has to be a yid. And he goes on and on and on and on and on, explaining for 10 parakim how to establish a king with our Sanhadrin and so on. And then, when you have a king, and he's matzliach to do all the basic stuff that a Jewish king would try to do, kibbutz galiyos, mechias amalik, binyan beis abchira, im asavi tzliach, harei Mashiach v'adai. In other words, the candidacy for Mashiach, according to the Rambam, according to Halacha, is only a melech. Only a melech can become Mashiach. So, lemafreya, if you're able to do X, Y, and Z, then you're Mashiach. And regarding what you said about what are the things that are part of the stuff that Mashiach needs to do, all this is still in Teva. We're now holding Paz mitzvahs, which is 87 mitzvahs, and we need to jump into Taryag mitzvahs, and we're at a bottleneck because the bottleneck is the fact that you need to do certain things in the Geula in order to open up all these options. You need to have a king. You need to take over Eretz Yisrael. You need to give land to Yidden so that they have a field that's theirs, so that they can be able to be Mekayim the mitzvahs. You need to have a Beis Hamikdash in order that we can give Machatzis a shekel, and we can do Sfira Sa'imer according to Halacha. And you need to have a Beis Hamikdash in order to do all the Karbanos, and of course. So right now we're in a sixth of our potential, less than a sixth of our potential as far as spiritual and physical growth in this world. If we're only doing 87 mitzvahs out of 613, it's like a person that has most of his potential shut down. He's barely alive. Now, as far as the part of the Yemaisa Mashiach that's not up to us, that would be Tchias HaMesim. Tchias HaMesim is, as the Rebbe calls it, a new Seder Maisa Bereshis. In other words, Hashem's going to update the code of everything we know, everything we know and everything we understand about reality. And that is something that is not something that we can do. Okay, but as far as Minui Melech, Mechias Amalek, Binyan Beis Abchira, these are mitzvahs just like keeping kosher, just like keeping Shabbos. You do it if you can. You don't do it if you cannot. And if you don't know how to, then you go ask your Chabad, your local rabbi. The mitzvahs of being Memane HaMelech are very simple. You get 70 guys, together, and you're Mamana Melech. That's the first thing you need to do when you're in Eretz Yisrael. And this Medina has been here for quite some time. So it's almost like a Chilul Hashem if we don't do it very quickly. It would be an embarrassment if Am Yisrael would be in Eretz Yisrael for 100 years and we still weren't Mamana Melech, I think. And not because, you see, a lot of Chevra are going to tell me, what about the Rebbe? Rebbe Melech HaMashiach, is everything you're doing with the Sanhedrin a preparation for the Rebbe's Isgalus? So on one hand, yes, of course, if the Isgalus happens as the Sanhedrin is established, why not for the Sanhedrin to take the Rebbe as a candidate? But even deeper than that, the Rebbe, for the real question is not what we want. The real question is, what does the Rebbe want? And for the Rebbe, it wasn't important that he's Mashiach. Up to Chayasar and Beis, the Rebbe is still going Mori v'chami admur nesiderenu. It wasn't for the Rebbe. It wasn't about the Rebbe. For the Rebbe, it was about Kabbalas Pnei Mashiach. It was about the Geula Mitzvah Shlema. Another point I want to point out is that Kabbalas Pnei Mashiach is the source of those words are in a lidale, basically in a Yiddish song that was very popular for hundreds of years in Europe. So for those Talmidei Chachamim that are going to try to find where the source of the words Kabbalas Pnei Mashiach, it's a Yiddish song that the Yiddish imam taught the kids to remind them that they want Mashiach. Just a side note.
I don't think this is similar. I think this is all like Eis Ratzim, but just making sure what you think about this. I heard a story, and probably more than once happened, or that the Rebbe told a Rav to pasken to Mashiach should come. How do you explain that? Does that have anything to do with Sanhadrin, or is that just like miraculous Eis Ratzim?
So because that's where that's like let me explain. The way the Sanhedrin works is a lot of some of the guys actually that I ran across, they said, okay, the whole point of the Sanhedrin will be to pasken that the Rebbe has to be in his gala right now, right? It works good with their narrative and the way they see things develop. Or other people have, like, look, I'm dealing with Sephardic rabbis, I'm dealing with Ashkenazic rabbis, dealing with Chabadnikim, non-Chabadnikim. We have the chief Chabad rabbi of Haifa, the Hemshech of Rav Boaz Kali, Zichrono Livracha, which was famous for being able to bring in Arab Druze and other leaders from the nations here in Eretz Yisrael and teach them Sheva Mitzvot B'nai Noach. So Rabbi Ben Zion Gagola in Haifa is one of the Sanhedrin advisors. He's a Chabadnik, he's a Meshachist, for that matter. So we do have Chabadnikim. At the same time, we have Rabbi Berger, which his father is the Rebbe of a huge Chassidus, and he himself is very, very popular amongst the Chassidic Kreisen and in the world. So we have, and then we have Rav Yudah Chayek, which is from Iraq, from where Rabbi Kaduri is, and many Mekubalim. So we have an assortment of different Yidden that are coming together in the Sanhedrin initiative. So every Chabadnik that's hearing this has to understand that on one hand, I understand the narrative of the Chassid, but on the other hand, the Sanhedrin is not some magical potion that just makes up psak din and whatever, heaven and earth ceases to exist. Of course, we could put out piskei din in a routinely manner to encourage the Eibishter to move forward in the Geula process. And if all that's needed is a psak halacha, then of course we'll be happy to do it. But as far as the day-to-day job of the Sanhedrin, it's more like this. Ever since the war, for example, we've been putting out articles and videos in Hebrew and also signing papers and letters to the war cabinet here in Israel. And many of the stuff that we put out made it to the war cabinet about halachic questions that are arising. First of all, for example, we made it clear that even on a suffix of pikuach nefesh, we just reiterated Shulchan Aruch and reaffirmed it and connected it to our times and to the situation today. So according to halacha, that every soldier in the IDF is allowed and should, it's a mitzvah for him to be mechalel Shabbos in order to fight the wars of pikuach nefesh and mechias amalek that are happening right now. And we went through all the halachas that are relevant, And we made it very, very clear in a very simple language that anyone in the army should know, whether they're from or whether they're a captain or a general, doesn't matter, that it's a mitzvah for the soldiers to be Mechal Shabbos if it's a suffix of Pikuach Nefesh. Now, if the guy has a shmirah and his shmirah ends on Shabbos and he wants to drive back home on Shabbos, that's another question. But if it's a question of if he needs to smoke a cigarette and shoot the enemy, and it's going to relax him and help him focus, that's fine. Safek pikuach nefesh mechal in Shabbos. Yotzim b'klei zayin. The Rebbe brought this up many times. So that's one example regarding the pidyon shvuim of the hostages. We made it very, very clear, and I believe that our proclamations made a difference in the policy in Israel. That under no circumstances is it excusable or prohibited. Is it excusable or permitted to trade hostages for, number one, exorbitant amounts of money, or number two, killers, shor muad, people that have shfichus damim, and they tell you in your face that they're going to go out and kill more Jews if you let them out of jail. These kind of people are not allowed under any circumstance to be switched in any pidyon shvuim operation. According to Shulchan Aruch, you're only allowed to pay a small amount of money for pidyon shvuim. Yeter al k'deid mehem, more than what these shvuim are worth, you're not allowed to pay. Number one, because it's a tircha to the tzibur. The tzibur is going to have to stand and pay for that at the end of the day, and it's a tircha to the tzibur, and it's not fair to the tzibur. And number two, it's mechazik yedehem shel oivei Yisrael. So these are halachas in real time that we put out as part of the Sanhedrin initiative, together with Rabbi Chayak and the other shoftim. We sat down, we opened up Sfarim, and we put this out to help in real time Klal Yisrael in the war. So that's more like the kind of work you're going to see. Hopefully, of course, there's a lot of people that are be'ad the Sanhedrin initiative because they see they have family issues, they have different issues in Kehilas, and they want a Sanhedrin Gadol to deal with their case, or a Sanhedrin Ketana. That's Hashem.
So I actually was discussing a little bit when I found you, and I spoke to him about the Sanhedrin, and one of the questions he had, which I'm sure many people have, and I've heard this even before I met you, about something, because I've heard somewhere in my life about, we need to make a Sanhedrin, but we can't do it because we lost the Semicha. No one has Semicha from Ish Mipi Ish. We lost that. So I'm not sure if you answered that directly.
You want me to go into that a little more in detail? So the Rambam says that you get Roiv Chachmei Yisrael Sheba Oisei Hadar, and Chachmei Yisrael is Yisrael also Eretz Yisrael. So if you're in Chutz La'aretz, Hayos, like we said earlier, it's a suffix if it's Bechal Chal on you, all these things. The Rebbe spoke a lot about Kibbutz Goliath, and that everyone should go to Eretz Yisrael. And the Rebbe always finished the Sichos off that everyone b'nareinu b'skeninu b'baninu b'bneseinu, we should all go to Eretz Yisrael. So because that's all you can really do in Chutz La'aretz. You can wish to go to Eretz Yisrael.
But doesn't that have to be through Moshiach, Kibbutz Goliath?
Yes.
Are you saying that Aliyah is encouraged? Because I always heard that Aliyah is a beautiful thing, but has nothing to do with part of Mashiach, because Mashiach has to do it. Something like Mashiach has to do Kibbutz Goliath, Mashiach has to build the Beis Hamikdash. You can't just do it on your own.
So the Alter Rebbe almost came to Eretz Yisrael. Okay, let's make a few things clear here. Yeah, the Alter Rebbe was this close to making Aliyah. Now he didn't do it through the Sochnut and through the Medina. Yeah, he didn't need a Zionist to tell him to do it. But of course, every second that you're in Eretz Yisrael is a mitzvah. Every breath, every step you take is a mitzvah. That the fact that you're in Eretz Yisrael. A lot of tzaddikim died on the way to Eretz Yisrael. A lot of tzaddikim were meiser nefesh to get to Eretz Yisrael, including the Rebbe's brother lived in Eretz Yisrael here in Sfas, and so on and so forth. This goes without saying that living in Eretz Yisrael every minute is a mitzvah. So much so that if you're in Eretz Yisrael, you have to have very good reasons in order to leave. Only if you're going for a shidduch, only if you're going to learn Torah, mipi rabbi, and a few other very, very, very specific things. But the place for a yid is in Eretz Yisrael. A yid in Eretz Yisrael is like a plug in the socket.
By the way, you say
Okay?
a mitzvah. Which mitzvah is that? What's the name of the mitzvah?
The mitzvah of being in Eretz Yisrael, that's a good question. I don't have it off the back of my head. I don't have it off the back of my head. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
But I can check it. I don't know. Masha ain't yodea. I'm just gonna say I don't know.
Cool.
But
I appreciate that. I wish more people would just be as honest and say I don't know. That's incredible. Yeah.
I'm not gonna be like, what do you mean? What, you don't know the mitzvah?
Yeah. People who don't have proper humility, you wouldn't say that. Okay, good for you. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so every minute that we're in Eretz Yisrael, also you have to think about it. I'm Yisrael now. Okay, there's a few ways that we could look at this. Before the war, that's what the whole reason the Zionists had a problem with the From Yidden in the Holocaust, and the reason why the Neturei Karta, for example, they carry the tradition that they saw Yidden telling the Germans, the Nazis, to kill the religious Jews. There was also Rabbi Weissmandl came out with a book where he was running back and forth trying to be a double agent and trying to close a deal to save about 200 to 500,000 Jews in Hungary. So the generals and the army of the Nazis already realized that Hitler's going to lose this war, and they kind of felt bad just to kill another 500,000 Jews. So they had to have about 500,000 Jews in Hungary, and they just wanted some Jews to pay shipping and handling to just basically get them. And they try to speak to the liberal Haskalah movement, Zionist Jews in Eretz Yisrael and in New York, but the answer to both of them was no. We don't want that kind of Jews. We don't need the Jews, the Hasidic Jews with the herring stuck in their beards, walking around Tel Aviv and New York in our new world. So there was a lot of hate, and this hate came from. We can go back even more. Herzl tried to be like the Goyim. His whole elitist friends were trying to be the best doctors and the best lawyers and the best soldiers. And then they took there's the famous trial of the Dreyfus soldier. Those, you guys check it out. A very, very important historical moment. And this is Dreyfus was a Jewish soldier in the French army. And he was the best guy. He totally threw his Yiddishkeit down the drain, let's put it that way, and was the best tzaddikel for whatever the Europeans and the French wanted. Nevertheless, they found him guilty, and they stripped him of all his ranks, and they made him ke'echad ha'adam. And when they were doing this whole ceremony, it was in front of the entire French army and in front of the entire French population, including Herzl and a few other of the elitists of the Jewish Zionist Haskalah movement, continuation of the Haskalah movement that the Alter Rebbe had problems with. And these guys, when they heard the people chanting, "Kill the Jew," they said, okay, our attempt to be like the Goyim has failed. The anti-Semitism is still alive and well. No matter how much we try to be like them, Herzl was ready, and he converted 2 of his kids to Christianity. It didn't help him. The anti-Semitism never went away. And in that moment, Herzl realized that all of the Jewish people in Europe are in a situation of pikuach nefesh. And because of that pikuach nefesh, he was ready to move all of the Yidden even to anywhere out of Europe. He knew that Europe is going to burn sooner than later. And that's why Uganda was on the table, because Uganda is better than Auschwitz. Okay, I'm being Malamed Schos on Herzl a little bit, but that's the general picture. The point, the way I see it, is that the Zionists bring the Jewish body, the guf, and the Rebbe brings the Jewish soul, the neshama. And saving the Jewish body is important. Saving the Jewish soul is important. There needs to be a chibur. The Rebbe already told us that proper sin'ah between Yidden, the way it was before the Holocaust, doesn't exist anymore. We can move past that. And when your original, what was the original point you were telling me? I'm sorry.
The question?
Yeah.
How original question was how do you know that Semicha How do you know that? How do you know that Semicha?
Sorry,
How are we doing Semicha again if it was lost?
Okay. So okay. Let's just finish this point.
We may have got a little off topic.
Yeah. The Zionists save the Jewish body. The Rebbe and the Chassidim and the Frum Yidden that keep the Maseres Yisrael, they save the Jewish soul. There needs to be a chibur, and I believe that way there should be atzlacha. The Semicha is Roiv Chachmei Yisrael. Okay, so the Roiv Chachmei Yisrael Shabbai said, and then we asked, then you asked me, is Eretz Yisrael going to Eretz Yisrael a mitzvah? So before the Holocaust, it seemed to be obvious to the Frum Yidden because they read the halacha and it says Ein Mimanin Melech El Al Pi Beis Din Shel Shivim, and they read Minui Melech Kadem Lebinyan Beis Abchira. So they figured that if Melech means Melech HaMashiach, so then there's no reason to Binyan Beis Abchira as something that's connected to Eretz Yisrael, to Hara Kodesh. So there's no reason to go to Hara Kodesh before you have the Melech, which is Melech HaMashiach, which is going to take them out of Varsha or out of the ghetto or out of wherever they are. But today, it's kind of established that, of course, coming to Eretz Yisrael is part of the manifestation of the Geula. It's obvious, as clear as day. And I hope that in a few years it's going to be obvious and clear as day that the Sanhedrin is obviously part of the Geula process as well. And now, regarding specifically, so the Rambam says, you take Roiv Chachmei Yisrael Shabai Ba'esai Hadar, the Yidden that are in Eretz Yisrael, you take the Roiv of the Chachamim in that time, and you get them together. Their Semich, one guy that he should be the head of the Sanhedrin, he gives them back the Semicha, and that's it. The Semicha is restored. That's it. It's relatively a simple process.
So crazy because you're making it sound so simple. How come it's just crazy that I've always heard as if it was like impossible and only
I want to
something like Eliyahu now we will bring it back. Something crazy like that.
Of course. I told you the Radbaz goes there. Rashi, for example, is in France. Yeah, Rashi is in France. And Rashi tells us, Rashi is the one who brings us that the Beis HaMikdash can come down from Shemayim. And you have to understand, the Torah, the way you learn it in Chutz La'aretz is different than the Torah in Eretz Yisrael. Talmud Bavli is different than Talmud Yerushalmi. Talmud Yerushalmi is very short and to the point because there's a lot of work to do and there's not enough time to talk. Talmud Bavli is just talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. It's kind of teaching you how to go into hibernation when you're far away from your natural state. In Talmud Bavli, for example, it says, Ilei male moira shel malchus ishes re'eu chaim bloi. So that means that we have to have fear of governments. But if you're trying to establish Hashem as king, and if Hashem is your king and the Torah is your law, and the Melech the HaMashiach is your king in Eretz Yisrael, so then of course you have to have no fear, and you have to be a kaifer in the Malchus. But when you're in Bavel, you have to say these kind of things because you're in Golus. It's basically that you're machadish the smicha. It's relatively simple. It's just like when you see Yidden going into Mincha Ma'ariv. There's no guy standing at the door checking everyone's giyur, asking people to come with their ksuba just in order to count them for a minyan. Yidden Am Yisrael's becheskas kashrus. It's not a big deal. So too, like I say, a Sanhedrin is not such a big deal. It's a power of shivim, and in a case where you don't have shivim, like you don't know which ones in Am Yisrael are the spitz, you just take shivim and you do what you need to do. Just like if you need a minyan to open a Sefer Torah, you need shivim in order to be Mamane HaMelech or do other things, and that's it.
So how come they didn't do it till now? It sounds so simple.
Why? Because we haven't been in a place that we are right now. The Rebbe is like Moshe Rabbeinu. And also, I want to say another thing. We were talking about Rashi and the Radbaz and Talmud Bavli and a Golistic way of looking at Yiddishkeit. So, as long as we have to understand that the mindset changes when you come to Eretz Yisrael, everything changes because you realize you can actually do it in real time. You're not in Texas where the best thing you can do is build a huge Moshiach flag or have a fire department, a fire truck station that you bought from the local government and you put in mitzvah tanks. We're talking about an entire changing of reality, it's a whole different spiel. It's a whole different mindset. And you can't talk, it's hard to explain. The Golos, the way of thinking in a Golos term, the Rebbe also does this a little bit. Like the Rebbe says in the later years that nobody would have a problem if Eliyahu Navi comes to Brooklyn. I'm sure you're familiar with that in the Dvar Malchus.
Yeah.
So, but the Rebbe also tells you why he's doing it. The Rebbe, first of all, makes it very clear, I am not a paisik in halacha, and I'm not doing it because it's a halachic thing. I'm just doing it in order to give Hashem more reasons that Mashiach should be Rizgala right now. That's what the Rebbe does. The Rebbe says that today is a very special day in the month, and today is a very special day in the week, and today is the yard side of this one and the yard side of that one. And the Rebbe is basically convincing Atzmus U'Mahus, Ein Sof Baruch Hu, that today is a great day for Mashiach to be revealed. And even if we're in Brooklyn, what's the big deal? You could also bring Eliyahu Navi to Brooklyn. But as far as getting involved in the halachic semantics of it all, that's not the Rebbe's department. And also, I think that Rashi and all these people were doing it l'shem shamayim, because when you're in Bavel, or when you're in France, or when you're in Golus, and the Geula seems so far from you, and you're a Talmud Chacham, you have to try your best to see how you can convince the Eibishter to get you out of Golus. You feel hopeless. And I think that's kind of the way we should look at these Talmidei Chachamim. We shouldn't look at them as antis that didn't get the way the Sanhedrin is supposed to be put together. Why are they getting in? The Rambam is extremely logical. The Rambam is, we say, Mi Moshe ad Moshe lo kam ke Moshe. Okay, some people think, okay, it's a nice little vart. No, Moshe Rabbeinu took the Yidden out of Golus, and the Rambam is the only Sefer Halachas that goes hardcore, realistically speaking, step by step into the Geula. And when you're ready to do it, the less turbulence you can have, the better. That's, of course, the Radbaz has certain things to his merit later on in the process that we're going to go by him according to halacha. We're going to use his halacha. In other words, not everything the Radbaz, not every time the Radbaz, and not everything Rashi says, and not everything in Talmud Bavli. There are things in halacha that they say that don't work in the reality of manifesting it in real time, and there are things that do work. Just like not everything the Rebbe says in Kabbalah's Bnei Mashiach can we manifest. Like we said, Eliyahu Navi, Brooklyn, okay, whatever, yeah, maybe 770, Beis HaMikdash, Anane Shmaya, okay, maybe, but what can we do? That's my real question. And the only thing that Yid can do is do things according to halacha in Torah, like the Rebbe says. And we have to look at the halacha in Torah. We have to see how do we crack out of it. The Rebbe actually, on our website, mnglobal.org, we have Beis Havad Lachachamim. And over there we bring down the letter of the Rebbe that he brings in Igros Kodesh. It's a couple pages long. And there was a guy that is trying to put the Sanhedrin together. I don't even think he was from, but he meant well. And the Rebbe answered him exactly why you shouldn't do it and why you should do it. And the main thing is, you see also in the beginning of the halachas of the Rambam, it's very important for the Rambam to point out that those who try to put together a king and they're not doing it l'shem shemayim, they're not going to be matzliach. When we put together a Sanhedrin, the reason we need to do it is because we cannot move forward in the Geula process without it. So the Sanhedrin is not going to come and say Chabad is right for wearing a wig and the Sfardim are wrong for wearing a mitpachat. The Sanhedrin is not going to put a gzera that the tzibur cannot stand and fulfill. But the Sanhedrin is going to deal with, how do we build the Beis HaMikdash? What is the exact Mekayim HaMikdash? Where is the Beis HaMikdash facing, right? Is it facing this way, Yamav, Akedma, Tzafayna, Vanekba? What are we talking about? Where is the area that's Kadesh? How do we deal with the Para Aduma? So all these questions that are talking about into the future, we're going to have to deal with. We're going to have a Sanhedrin to deal with. So the Sanhedrin is not here to totally rattle up everything that we know and everything that we're fulfilling. It's in order to actually add into an area that we never really went into till now, Am Yisrael. And Am Yisrael, we could do a lot on our own. The Temanim, the Sfardim, the Ashkenazim, the Satmar, the Chabad. There are certain things that we need to serve Hashem as a nation. And we have to have in the Sanhedrin, B'ezras Hashem, we have Chabad, we'll have Satmar, Bobov, Bells, Sfardim, Ashkenazim. Everyone in Am Yisrael will be represented in the Sanhedrin. and there will be anshe chayil, soine betza. They won't be for sale, and then the short-term benefits of this will be that, for example, if chas v'shalom there's another pandemic, for example, the Sanhedrin is going to do an investigation, a proper halachic investigation, and they're going to use the yoyatzim, again, like we said, that have all the languages in the world. They speak all the languages, that they know all the cultures, they know what's real and what's fake news, what's real news. They're going to do their investigation, and they're going to come out with a psak. And you're not going to have a situation where half the Rabbanim say X and half the Rabbanim say Y, and Am Yisrael is left in the dirt to just basically do whatever you want. So there's a little bit of achrayus, there's a little bit of accountability, and with it's responsibility is a dangerous thing. Of course, I can imagine that there's going to be governments that are going to want to try to buy off of the Sanhedrin. They're going to try to turn it into another political tool, and I hope that doesn't happen. Of course, we could just hope for the best. And Be'ezrat Hashem, the Semicha is going to be worked out. The halachas that are connected to it. We have many great. There's a rabbi named Rabbi David Bar Chaim. I have many videos online that I just discussed the Sanhedrin, one after the other, with different kinds of people, from the Na'arei Agvaot to Machon Shiloh. There's a great kihila of Torah Hashem Be'eretz Israel, that they are be'ad the Sanhedrin. They're not about whatever the Medina is busy with. So it's not a steer minei obey. It's just as of now, it's just basically the same way a Yid has the rights to put on film every day or keep kashrus. So too, you have the right to be Memane Melech, to bring Mashiach, and that's the way we should see it, and that's the way Be'ezras Hashem it will be. Now, how exactly? Of course, just like the Rebbe said, I'm giving it over to every single one of you. This is the Sanhedrin. Literally is 70 shoftim, and then of course you have parallel to them. You'd probably need at least 70 yoyatzim, and of course this kind of thing has to be mikubal al all of Am Yisrael. And if I had one message to say to the average Yid, go to your Rebbe, go to your Rabbanim, tell them to stop fighting Litvishers, Chabad, whatever, Chassidim, this, that. Stop with all the other bickering that you guys are busy with. Start to work be'achdus, because once the Sanhedrin is established, we also cancel the Sibas Hagalos, which is Sinas Chinam, because the achdus in the Sanhedrin will represent the achdus in all of Am Yisrael. That itself cancels out the reason for the Golos, creates Avas Chinam, and then we can move forward into the Geula like that. Be'ezrat Hashem.
Wow, amazing. Was that supposed to be the finish off the interview?
I don't know, lady. Unless you got more questions up your sleeve, I don't know. You tell me.
I can bring with you all day, because it's funny, because that's usually the last thing I tell my interviewers, that I asked them to give a call to action. So you've already spoiled us with that. So it'd be funny to continue now.
No, we have more call to actions. I mean, but Levi, is there any questions that come up to mind? What are you feeling this Farbrengen? What's missing?
More of just technical question, like where are we holding? How is your job now to just just looking for more Rabbanim who are interested in being one of the Shoftim and Yoetzim?
Yes. So ever since 2016, we have on our website the list of the processes all the way up to being in Beis Abchira. And right now we have about over 25 judges and advisors in the Sanhedrin initiative. Okay. And we have just finished, as I said earlier, our 7th conference. Each conference that we had, people flew in from all over the world. There were Chidushei Torah, and every conference was an opportunity to get more judges and more advisors, and that's Taka how it was. And I also want to say that if we want to talk about just in the last few weeks, we visited the Yanuka. We visited a few of the greatest rabbis in the Litvischer Welt. We briefed them about the Sanhedrin. There's a great organization in Bnei Brak called the Moisdes Ashtepenesh. They're a very big group, and they have a lot of tzedakahs and chesed that they do. We visited their offices, and they have Rabbi Solomon, which is the rabbi that's running it. He was excited and exalted about what we were doing. He's a very important person. He had to go on a flight, so we're going to catch him later. But he's definitely looking forward to continuing this work with us and figuring out how we can help. There's a lot of Rabbanim that the second they heard about this, they're like, oh, finally, we have people that are manifesting everything that they've been learning all till today. So Rabbi Shvitza from Kfar Yona, the second he heard that what we're doing, he said, count me in. And he's a Rav of tens of thousands of Yidden. And Kfar Yona is like a city, basically. And so we're talking to Rabbanim. The Sanhedrin initiative includes going around, and the more we have on our website, something called the Sanhedrin Share. I'll show you what it is here real quick. We actually have a few orders. We have an order going out to India. We have orders going out to Germany and to the United States. This is a Sanhedrin Share. One second, let me show you guys. So a Sanhedrin Share is basically, a share is like a chelik, right? A part. You become a part. It's like a chelik leilam haba, a part of the world to come. So a Sanhedrin share, each and every one of them is like a bond or a share. You become a partner in the Sanhedrin establishment. Okay, this Sanhedrin share, for example, is of $100. So every person that donates money gets a share. We have a database where every share owner gets a special number, and every share has a special number. So, and we send them out to whoever donates, basically, to the Sanhedrin initiative. We also sell shofars and mezuzahs from Eretz Yisrael on our website, and we have temple coins, which is a silver coin, picture of the Beis HaMikdash on one side, and the 12 Shvatim on the other side, in the order that they were in the Machane as they traveled in the Midbar. So the Magen David, actually, you can put Machane Levi in the middle, and then you have 3 Reuven in the front, the spearhead, and then you have Yehuda on the left, Menashe and Ephraim on the right, Shimon and Levi. So you have Reuven, Shimon, and then Levi is in the middle. So Shimon and Levi is one duo, Menashe Ephraim is another duo, and then you have Yehuda on the other side. Dan in the back is like the snake. So you literally see, just from looking at the way the Yidden went in the Midbar, you can actually see the strategic war stance of Am Yisrael. It's pretty crazy. So we have that on the coin, and then so it has the 12 Shvatim written, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, all the Shvatim around, besides Levi, which is in the middle, and then on the other side you have the Beis HaMikdash, and then we have another special edition of Matan Torah. So it's actually a coin. It's a limited edition coin that was minted specifically for the Sanhedrin conference that we had in Haifa. So you have the Beis HaMikdash on one side, and you have on the other side Matan Torah, and you have Moshe, Yeshua, and the Shivim Zkenim. Later, of course, Yeshua went off the mountain, Aaron HaKohen took his place, but for a moment there was Moshe, Yeshua, and the Shivim Zkenim, and you have the Har Sinai, and it says Sanhedrin Conference 5783, I believe it was last year. So we have these coins. We also have the gold coins, which we're actually sold out of right now. The silver coins don't cost very much. They only cost 15 euro, which is about, I don't know, 16 bucks. And that includes shipping from Eretz Yisrael, but about 16 bucks for a silver coin. You could also buy the Machatzis HaShekel package, which is we give we have here, I'll show you. It's a similar share, a little bit different, but it's basically, this is the Machatzis HaShekel, Sanhedrin Machatzis HaShekel Tafshin Pei Dalet. This is a receipt for someone who basically gives 28 bucks, which comes out to be about 100 shekel roughly. And we give that money straight to Karen Oroshel Chesed. There's a guy named Erez Cohen. He's in charge of all the Chesed in the Golan area. And that's the Machatzis HaShekel. We give it to him. And if you wanted to do level 2, you add another 28, and that goes to the Sanhedrin initiative. So that's basically the cheapest way to donate to the Sanhedrin, because most of our shares are a little bit more money. They start at a higher rate. But if you do the machatzis shekel, you get $28 for the to the poor of Eretz Yisrael, another $28 to manifest the Sanhedrin, so you could actually do a real machatzis shekel. And then level 3 is you get 5 temple coins, so that you can actually change machatzis shekel in your shul to kesef, to silver, and do it in your community. Or you can give them out like a business card to tell people that Mashiach's on his way. And level 4, ever since the war, and this year we started it, is you can actually get a shofar. Let me show you guys one real quick. So you can get a shofar like this. This is a 14-inch, highest quality shofar. And we went to the factory. It's about 20 minutes away from us here in the Golan. And we picked them out ourselves. Very, very high quality. And we have a couple sizes and a couple options. But level 4 would be you get a Sanhadrin share, you get a machatzis shekel share, you get 5 temple coins, and you get a shofar as well, because we need the geula and we need the war to be ending on a nitzachon from Israel. So that's the plug of the plug.
That's beautiful. Okay. I guess, if there's more to say, we can make a part 2. It was really nice discussing this incredible new idea. I hope this goes viral and really brings the gula. And like you said, a call to action is that, I guess if I may summarize what you said, a call to action, every one of us should go to our Rabinim and ask them, like, we're tired of the sinas chinam, we want to get along, and we think that the best way is through a Sanhedrin. And that's just, it is a major factor, because the Siba of Galus was sinas chinam, and now the Sanhedrin will be a tool to get rid of that. But it's not the only reason why we're making a Sanhedrin. It's a Sanhedrin, like you said. It's not even just to bring Mashiach. The Sanhedrin is to judge all cases of halacha. But one of the biggest things is the pasken Mashiach, Minoi Melech, and also automatically Senat Chinam will go away. We'll have Avas Chinam.
That's a shame.
Right.
Levi, I just want one last thing. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
You've been interviewing many guys recently. You have I see you're very active on YouTube and active on Facebook. Can you tell us a couple key points that have been running in your shows and the vibe, like the news, what's going on in Am Yisrael from the Chabad perspective, at least from your channel and from what you're doing?
So with regards to feedback, I wish I got more feedback. I used to say all the time, please give me feedback. I guess this will be for those listening, a reminder that we really appreciate feedback and just what you think about it. So
but I'm saying, what kind of interviews have you been involved in? What kind of besura what do you see Yidden involved? Like I saw you did the Semicha program you advertise, right? Things like that. So what do you see Am Yisrael busy with other than what we just spoke about today?
So I just try to find people who are have the time and willing to be interviewed and have the time to be interviewed, and we find the uniqueness in every Jew. That's what it's about. Are you asking me like the people who I interview?
Yeah. Like in general, like for example, like I saw the guy. I only saw the guy that you did with the Semicha. I don't know anybody else that you interviewed. So just for my viewers especially, I'll be happy to share this with them. I just want you to introduce yourself a little bit and what you're doing.
So I'm very passionate about so why I made this channel is that I see there's to fill in this lack, in this gap of things that are not being spoken about enough, and specifically in reach, specifically within our own circles. I do cater to the Chabad crowd. I always say that, and to Anash, but if any way I can make it not too difficult to make it that the outside world should understand, then that's great. But I was trying to strengthen our own inner circles, and specifically with the educational system. And again, that could very well be everyone could benefit from that, from the educational system at home and at school. I talk mainly in my first videos, just being authentic. What else? I had another interview about Moshiach, but nothing to do with the Sanhedrin. And we speak mainly about Yechi and stuff. And
so you're saying you cater to Chabad and specifically to the in Chabad, and I like that, because I really felt, I also grew up in Crown Heights, as we spoke about earlier. I really felt that ever since Gimel Tammuz, especially our parents, they're just walking around like, well, what's the next move? That's what I felt like. And I really felt like there needs to be a new horizon. We need a new conquest. We need a new mission to accomplish, a new directive. Just to sit and sulk in the same spiel is not getting us closer. During the years of the from Tavshin Yud Aleph, we see the 10 Mivtzaim come out, and we see Shluchim go all over the world, and we see Afatzas HaTorah Vayadus and Afatzas HaMayanus Chutza. We see the Rebbe upgrading the whole time. The Rebbe keeps telling us, okay, we already polished the buttons, we already finished the Tziktzor HaKaftar, and we already finished the style Alter L'Tshuva, Alter L'Gula is behind us. And I really felt like in Chabad, there hasn't been enough upgrades. We can mention Rabbi Kotlarsky, Zichron Livracha now, with the Shluchim and the Shluchim campaign, that we've been busy fighting and bickering over. I call it, when two Hasidim fight, it's like two soldiers wrestling in the base. They're just fighting with each other so that they're both stronger for the real war. But what's the real war? The real war is the evil in the world. Is the pedophilia. The real war is the galus, the chayshech kapel v'chupel, the stuff that the Rebbe ran away from. When the Rebbe saw Hitler, Yamach Shemoy, the Rebbe saw how you can take an entire society and turn them into evil. The Rebbe took an entire society and turned it into good. But the shleimus avoda is to tap into that bechira chafshis and free choice, and not just be everything's good, but we need to grab the bechira chafshis, be dangerous, like some of the psychologists these days say. Be dangerous and use that and matter, like a lion, like Yehuda. So Be'ezat Hashem. So first of all, I really identify with that niche, and I really hope that you have a lot of atzlacha. And I'm asking all my subscribers to check out your YouTube channel and to encourage, because right now in Chabad and in general in the Frum community, we need a directive, we need a new mission, and I hope that the Sanhedrin initiative will be part of that portfolio of putting together the Geulah Be'ezat Hashem. So with that, thank you so much, Levi, for your time, and I really appreciate it. Not everybody is this generous and outgoing and l'maisa b'foel, But Be'ezat Hashem, may those who see anything that this is new, may they use this in their avodas Hashem, and may we bring Moshiach now, Be'ezat Hashem.
Amen. Thank you. Sei gesund.
Sei gesund.